Okay. Make a start. So just find a comfortable posture for yourself in the chair. As always, be very gentle as you move into what we might think of as the Tai Chi posture. The degree that you know it's a constant changing thing in a way, and as we get to one point, we then discover there's a point beyond that, and each time there's a postural change, and so muscles, tendons, ligaments need time to adapt to that. In time, you get used to the idea that this is a process rather than a thing that you do and then forget about. But ideally, maybe you can see I'm slightly forwards in my chair, tilted forward, so all my feet being gently pressed in to the floor, just a sense that that the whole of my body's supported. Rubbing your hands together. And then with the pads of your fingers, just tapping lightly over your face. Just trying to leave the jaw a little bit loose. And then work up over your head and neck. The muscles vibrating underneath your hands and the inside of your arm and up the outside. And then your shoulder and your arm. Upper part of the chest. Put down to your belly, quite light on your belly. And then your legs. Back to just sitting and trying to get a feeling of your hips sinking into the chair. We want to let our center of gravity drop, and I think in the chair this becomes a more accessible quality. This process of rooting down, it's going to feel slightly different to the standing than in the lower part of your body, obviously, because your weight is distributed differently, and you've got the chair to support you. But in the upper part of the body, as you know, you create that space in areas like the hips and the knees and so on. It gives up a passageway for excess weight to drain the way down through your upper body. Letting your shoulders drop. So you can find a position where the muscles in your back start to lose some of their tightness. That's in your rib cage. And as you do this, just become aware that there's a stopping point for that dropping. Your rib cage drops a little bit, your shoulders drop a little bit, and then everything sort of comes to rest. Kind of pointing as an important element in Tai Chi, which is that although we're looking to release tightness in the body, to release tension, to relax, we're still functioning, and we still have a structure within the body, a strength, a resilience within the body that continues to support us. And the cultivation of this inner resilience is actually, I think, one of the ongoing benefits of the art, because it's something that we begin to experience outside of the actual practice sessions. So just slowly turning your head. Never moving so far or in a way creates the tightness. So it's a bit like if you ride a bike or drive a car, you don't start off at full speed as full. You sort of start off quite slowly and then build up through the gears or whatever. And in the same way, the first couple of movements we make of any exercise at any point really are quite small to give us the sort of momentum, the energy to build. Hands in front of your shoulders and circling your elbows around. As we begin to lose some of that tightness and stiffness in our bodies, we'll find that we'll become more aware of our body as one whole unit. Sometimes the tightness seems to provide barriers to that, but as for instance, you soften a little bit in the muscles of your chest, shoulders, back, you realize that a movement like this can go forwards now. Actually involves not just your shoulders and the immediate muscles, but sides, chest, back, and so on. They all engage in the movement. Hands down to your sides. And just widen your arms around. Same thing here, a bit more subtle, but still aware that as I turn my hands palm forwards, I can feel a kind of expansion around about here, and so on. They're not always going to be the same, these things that we notice. Some are more consistent than others. And then another good reason for paying attention to our posture is that we do begin to notice these things. And the process of trying to notice them is one that actually is very beneficial for the mind. It's that close focusing of attention. Go back the other way. That close focusing of attention that really helps to produce this sense of stillness, calmness in mind that's so much a part of them. Now, thinking about the middle of the body, just tilting your pelvis forwards a bit so that more of your weight goes forwards. At this point, as we move from this central part of the body, it's possible to get a sense of not just sort of a connection, say, from your elbows to your chest or something like that, which is the sort of thing we've been looking at so far, but movement in the center of your body means that actually every part of your body is in one way or another affected. Your shoulders go forwards, more of your weight goes into your feet, the back extends out. I mean, various things that you can begin to notice. And this central part of the body, the area between hips and pelvis and waist, sometimes described as being like the hub of a wheel. And again, in a bicycle or a car, the drive, whatever the system is, the pedals or the engine or whatever, moves the hub, and when the hub moves, the whole thing moves. This is forwards and backwards, feeling that your hips are sinking back in the chair as your shoulders go forwards. And so the hips sinking back help to bring your head back up to the upright position without straining. And then when we come back up, you turn, and now your weight goes more towards one leg. So your upper body has angled slightly, your shoulders are facing the slightly different direction. Get more of the weight in this upper part, this part of the leg, this side of the body, and then you turn the other way, same thing on the other side. So changes take place through central. Becomes a key point of focus. And then rolling the pelvis around the ball, just rolling in space. That would draw your head and shoulders around in a smooth circle. Feeling patterns of expansion and contraction. Do so when I go to here, with the expansion on that side, that contracts. Pelvis tilts with the expansion on the opposite side. So go back the other way. So really just encouraging you to observe what's going on within the body. As we progress, we learn to bring a sense of intentionality to those. But it's hard to be intentional about something that you don't, consciously intentional about something that you don't actually know. And then when you come back to the upright position, it's this part of the body settling into the chair, almost feeling like it's dropping through the chair, but once again brings you back to this central upright position, that strong sense of equality. Now, step out with one foot and step out, you put your heel down, the ball of the foot, you press in gently. Planting the foot, and then this time plant the foot, and then move the weight forwards. And on the other side, notice that my body is turned slightly here. So this is interesting because whilst we can see perhaps clearly how the arms are moved when the center of the body turns, it's not always so easy to see how that affects the legs. Letting your weight fill in to the leg that you just planted. One more time, and then alternating from side to side. And again, just notice, I bring my foot back, I move my weight across it. This is exaggerated, by the way, so I'm probably leaning over. And then I turn, and as I turn, I can raise the heel of that empty foot, facing this direction. So again, feeling that very subtle connection from the center of your body down into your feet and your legs. I am exaggerating these movements a little bit. These are very subtle movements. Like a lot of Tai Chi, sometimes we do the movements a little bit bigger just to really make those connections. But it's probably throwing my posture. And then the connection between the center of the body and the periphery of the body, let's not think in terms of arms and legs, but the whole of the periphery of the body is two-way. So you know, the center of the body might move, say, a foot. I do this, but if I want the center of my body to move in that direction, if I just do that, I'm probably going to fall out the chair eventually. So I send the foot out in order to allow the center to move in. And almost all these connections that we begin to recognize in Tai Chi are two-way. So we learn them in a linear sense, but functionally they're not separate. So let your hands just drop down again, turn your hands palm forwards, rolling your weight forwards again, tilting forwards and rotating the arms, bird poses. And the sense of movement as one unit physically, but also engaging our minds, intentions, and also just recognizing the flow of the movement, the energy. Just it's again very characteristic of Tai Chi. We may separate out movements and aspects of the movement to improve them, to work with them. But ultimately, the idea is to present them as a whole. You might liken it to a musician trying to learn a new piece of music and perhaps focusing on a particular aspect or a particular part of the tune or the melody, harmony. But the overall intention is to play the piece as a whole. So this is bird folds its wings. And then hands facing backwards, fisherman cast the net. Weight going forwards, arm following, and reversing. Like a wave flowing up through the body. I think this sense of the whole of ourselves moving actually makes a vast contribution to our sense of well-being, the feeling of being comfortably in our bodies, comfortably moving. Does actually help us to feel much more at ease, much more confident. There's very practical elements to this. I think it does mean that, for instance, if you look at, say, Chinese medicine, there are ideas about the flow of energy in the body and various points in the body that affect that flow of energy. Some of those points, say if you've got a stiff shoulder, some of those points may be in the area of the shoulder, but others may be more remote. Once we've started to move and once the energy has started to flow, it would tend to permeate even those regions that perhaps we're not quite so aware. This time, imagine there's a ball underneath your arms and as you come back, drawing your hands in so that you're rolling the ball in towards you. First moment, then nothing happens. It feels as though your arms just extend out, and then the momentum of the ball builds. Trying to feel that extension at this point, right down through your back and to your hips as well. There's a pattern to the movement here. There's an extension outwards, and then as our weight moves back, a contraction. Rhythm is consistent through all of the movements that we're doing. Steady pulse, which is itself quite calming, rejuvenating. Your hands palm in this time. As you come back, draw your elbows apart, feel that expansion across your chest. And then going forwards, pressing your hands in, expanding across your back. So as you notice these small changes within the body, it seems to amplify and we just quite naturally bring a stronger intentionality to it. And we can build on that. And this is where body and mind really become one. We might, for instance, just remember that from a previous time, previous movement. We can think of, in that sense, intention as being like an instruction to the body. Do that again. We might use some kind of image, and as we become more familiar with the movements, its qualities of imagery, memory are much more useful to us. Sometimes it might be a technical detail that we bring our attention to. Here, remembering to drop down in the chair. Might be an awareness of what it's like for our whole body to move as one unit. And again, an instruction, move like this. It's interesting to notice how our bodies respond to these sorts of intentions. And then sinking back, bringing your hands under your hips, pushing away. A slightly more compact version of the previous exercise. My elbows still go out a little bit. Again, I'm going to exaggerate this so you can see what I mean. I come back. I don't want my elbows to go behind my shoulders, so I let them come out. And again, there's that expansion across the chest. So now as I go forward, everything contracts as well as the movement, the weight forwards, it contributes to this pushing forward. Almost like if you were going to squeeze on a balloon, you'd push the air forwards in the balloon. Once again, I would emphasize that really is very exaggerated. This is more like how I would choose to do it. But once again, it can be quite useful to do these movements quite big and then gradually make them smaller, more subtle, more rhythmic. Combining this with the stepping. So turn towards one foot, step out, plant the foot, push forwards. Draw back. Turn the other way. Noticing whether, like many of us, we have a tendency to want to lead with the arms. This is very normal. We're hardwired to think more about what's going on in our arms, in the lower part of the body, but we want to change that perspective. We want to make sure the foot is in place before we try and move into it. I sometimes describe this as though we're walking on thin ice, that you actually want to test the ice before you commit to it. And whilst this is not how we would normally move around, we don't do it anything like this precisely. It does begin to have an impact on the way that we move in our everyday lives. That change of perspective is very valuable. One more time. Then punch with both fists, coming back, roll your fingers into a loose fist and go forward. So this time, your elbows don't go out or back too far. They go back towards your hips, but they stay in front. but the arm extends out as the weight goes forwards and then contracts in as you do. Going back to this idea of making the movement smaller, in doing so, we often find ourselves engaging parts of the body that are overlooked in the bigger movements, either because we simply haven't noticed them, or sometimes because they just don't get involved in them. So this too helps to distribute the movement, to give us more of a sense of our whole body engaged in one way or another in order to do this. It does mean that we're moving less externally, but then we can begin to build up those smaller movements once again into the bigger movements. So rather than say, stretching my arms out further if I want to move further, I can begin to notice with this exercise, perhaps, as I go forwards, that rotation, there's a slight lengthening through different parts of the arm. My hips are dropping back, there's a slight lengthening through my spine. So if I want my hands to go further forwards, rather than going, oh, I'll do that, which throws my whole posture out, I can actually build the movement on the base of my spine, right out into my arms and hands, and then back again. Which means I get much of that range of movement back, but it can feel very different, much more again distributed throughout. Opening your and then so the ability to observe, to engage our awareness in the movement, whilst having a very calming effect on the mind, is also an important tool in developing these movements. The way that I've described things today isn't set in stone. We learn much from the observation of our own movements. And we begin to be able to discern which are the useful elements and which are less useful. Quite often those are old habits of movement that we picked up through the years. So there's an air of discrimination that begins to set in. And then turning your hands, palm down, polishing the table, you turn horizontally, angling forward, remember moving from the center, extending out from the center, and then back. Change. So we might change the effect of the movement according to what we feel is required at the time, simply by changing intention. Sometimes you'll see books, lists of these movements. This movement is good for that. This movement is good for that. So on and so forth. Which can be very useful. But sometimes it's not uncommon to find that different books will list the same movement for different purposes, or the same purpose will be attributed to different exercises. So whilst it's not completely random, there is an element of flexibility in it. It's according to our own experience. So you could, for instance, use this exercise. If your back was stiff, you could do a slightly smaller movement and look for that being movement in the back and your spine. your shoulders were tight, you might want to drop your shoulders down and just try and extend your arms a little bit more, and many other possibilities of service. Might want to use this one to really help you to hardwire those connections between the center of your body and everywhere else. And one more in each direction. Now, bring your hands back. Don't even palm up as though you're just cradling the ball in your arms. Feel your weight dropping into your hips and down into your feet, and then feel a gentle push from your feet and your hips upwards, creating a wave-like movement that expands up through your upper body and then drains away. So again, this rhythm of expansion, contraction, yang to yin, very much a feature. In a more subtle way, perhaps experiencing that same lengthening and contraction in our backs and spines from the previous exercise, polishing the toe. Noticing how when your body expands, your elbows get pushed out slightly. That important element in bringing your hands up. Imagine the ball as being quite heavy. You wouldn't want to just strain in your shoulders. You want to try and use your whole body to move the ball. And in particular, you want a very strong sense of a downward movement. So really finding that sense of being rooted, hence the name of the exercise, rooting there. Turn your hands out. Just pointing away from your shoulders. Same thing through your feet and your hips. Expansion going a little bit broader, pushing your arms away. And the image of the bird in flight, the exercise is the wild goose. So the image of the bird in flight may offer some kind of quality, smoothness of movement, grace of movement, strength of movement. Our bodies naturally respond to images. So they too become important aspects of our intentionality. Time. And then parting the clouds, going forward slightly so your hands can slide in front of your knees, coming back, setting into your hips and expanding upwards. Not every image will resonate for you, and for many years, the name of this movement, Parting the Clouds, didn't really work for me. Well, I realized one day this lovely expansive feeling that I now associate with this exercise is akin to that feeling, you know, on a grey day with low clouds, suddenly the sun comes out and everything seems to open up a little bit, become a little bit brighter. Realizing that the exercise really encourages that sort of quality in body and mind when I bring the image to life. This time, letting your hands drop down, feeling the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders, and then focusing on one side. Again, your elbow being pushed away from your body, drawing your fingers up this time, Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Ensure you let your hand come all the way down and then change in sides. An awareness of those subtle details within your body, those subtle changes of expansion, contraction, the flow of energy, helps you to slow down a little bit in the movement, or rather perhaps slowing down to avoid rushing. This is an exercise where we may well notice ourselves wanting to get on with it. As said. The hand can be almost at the bottom, but not quite. On the other hand, already starting to move. But just allow yourself that little bit of time and space in between. To help you with that, you might want to bring your attention not straight to the opposite side, but to the center of your body, and that feeling of sinking into the chair and then to the opposite side. A good illustration, perhaps, of the way that an added detail for us to be aware of within our bodies actually does help with that generation of a sense of calmness and stillness within them. Bringing both hands up, lightly touching the side of your hips, the center of your body, and from there, extending upwards. Again, making sure you take the time to complete the movement by again lightly touching sides and then pushing out. The combination of the awareness as your hands come in and the physical action helps to cultivate the neural pathway that allows us to bring our attention into that center part of our body, and from there down into the ground. This too is a skill we can find it useful in our daily lives. So drawing of our attention just for a moment into the center of our body, in its journey down in to the ground, as a way of just breaking cycles of stress, frustration, build up in so many ways. Realizing that it doesn't actually have to take a great deal of time. So a split-second difference between getting to here and starting to push your hands out, or getting to here and then pushing your hands. And with that awareness of the center of the body, again, you can start to just gently urge change. You push your hands out, you turn. That changes the direction of your arms. Come back, turning. And then the other side, turning the other way. And coming back. And then. Our intentions are focused through the center of the body. It's time. Extend one foot, and again you turn slightly towards the hurt. Knees bent, easing forwards, rolling the pelvis forward, but letting your weight hang back, and then feeling your hips drop back into the chair. You're on your own, scooping the sea. It's quite a stretchy exercise, this one, but shouldn't go to a full stretch ever. These movements always feel as though you could have moved a little bit further, leaving space for that internal flow of energy. And then changing. This is grasping the tiger's ears. And we want that same extension, gentle lengthening to our back and spine. But there's some going upwards, which is a bit trickier. And this is one of those movements where I think, you know, intentionality can actually really guide the movement. That the intention to keep your weight back, but to lengthen through the spine. We may help this exercise. And then changing over. So both of these movements, scooping the sea and looking at the sky, and grasping the tiger's ears, are quite strong exercises. They take us out of that vertical line. You go quite low towards the ground here, almost like you're going to pick something up from the floor. But then we start to learn how we can come back to the upright position without straining. We've got that extension in the back, our hips dropping back, and as we come back up, it's almost like coming back up vertebra by vertebra. Change into grasping the tiger's ears, reaching out. And sometimes reaching out can be quite tricky. It can cause us to overbalance, it can cause us to strain. And yet here, we're able to reach out without either of those happening. Nice smooth movement and intention to keep a nice smooth movement. Once again, tapping exercise, this time preparing to stand. So starting again on the face. Over your head and neck. Over one shoulder, your arm. And on the other side. Up. Belly. And then pushing your heels up. And so. Back. And if you wish to stand, stand it up. So we've got things that we can begin to look for to have an intention to reproduce that we take from the seated postures, movements to the standing. There's also differences, of course. You haven't got a chair there for a start. So standing with the feet directly below your hips, so your hips are supported, shoulders are are supported. Just slightly tilt forwards, and then let gravity just pull your hips back. So you come back to an upright position. Shoulders in line with your hips, hips in line with your ankles. Notice where my hands are forward with my middle finger pointing downwards towards my ankle. Going from slightly tense position to one that is softer, but still very stable, remembering that sense of inner resilience. And everything's associated with that settling in both mind and body. This is the posture that my first teacher, Bronwyn Hipkin, used to advise us that we'd find ourselves using in supermarket queues. I did indeed find that. That's one of the most important lessons I've ever had from Tai Chi, is that in those times when you feel slightly frustrated or blocked, or maybe you're in a hurry, or the bus is late, the train is late, or the parcel hasn't arrived when you thought it was going to, all of those kind of things that are daily occurrences really for us, needn't actually affect us, needn't sort of heighten our sense of agitation. So now just letting the hips drop back a little bit more, being very careful with your knees, and then you'll find that you just reach a point where you naturally start to come up. Don't lock the knees back as you come back. Down. So again, bringing your hands around as though you're cradling the ball, and standing version of the exercise, rooting down, letting your center of gravity drop. At the end of the movement, rotate your hands out, going into the wild goose. And at the end of this movement, let your hands drop down and the standing version of party. Feeling the transition from one movement to another. Don't hurry that, there's plenty of time. And if you do happen to get it in the wrong order or forget what you're supposed to do next, it's not the end of the world. Gradually just letting this little sequence once again draw your attention in to your body, recognizing the subtle changes in the patterns, your upper body, the patterns of expansion and contraction once again, however you experience them. And once again, in time, that awareness will turn into an intentionality, and you'll feel a stronger sense of the movements being cultivated from within. It's not a lack of concern with the external movement, but it's more how we arrive at them. One more time, sense of a movement and energy arising from the ground. So hips dropping back again. Turn one foot out, step forward with the other foot, keeping the width of your step, stepping about the same distance in length, and now transferring your weight forwards and backwards. So once again, there's a sort of compression, this time more in one leg, of course, and as the leg begins to expand, rather than pushing us up, we want it to push us forwards and backwards. But once again, this sense of a movement and energy arising from the ground as a consequence of the rooting down. It's the yielding movement downwards that produces the upward movement. once again, shoulders in line with the hips. Beginning to feel perhaps the movement, not just in your legs, but in your upper body as well. Forwards into your belly, your chest, backwards, belly and chest in, into your back. This wave-like movement. Sometimes say this as though we're being massaged on the inside, so all the internal tissues and organs are being very gently bathed. Bring your weight into your back foot, raise the front toes, turn the front foot out, go forwards, push the back knee forwards. This will have the effect of bringing your upper body more closely in line with your supporting leg. So gradually, more and more of your weight flows down through one leg, keeping your body in line. Then, at a certain point, you'll find that you can just step in, push the foot back, pull the foot down, lower the heel, plant the foot, press in, come back, raise your toes. And as we did in the chair, extend the leg, heel, forward the foot, planting the foot, and move the weight forward. Remember, almost like you were stepping on the cylinder. Or another image, go paddling in the sea. Sometimes you can be doing that, and suddenly feel you've got to be really quite careful about your step, otherwise you're going to fall in. You don't want to get all wet, so you're very careful about how you place your foot. More careful than we might ordinarily be. But again, there will be a transfer, an extension into our daily lives, a greater awareness of placement of the foot, transfer of the weight, on key parts of moving around. Okay. In the parallel stance again, have your other foot forwards. So we're learning to maintain our root and the stability that comes with that as we move. We quite often find that in the transition from one foot to another, we've lost some of that. Remember, we give ourselves just that little time and space. I mentioned that earlier, not rushing. So because this has been in 4 stages, 2 of them are very clear, the weight is moving. 2 of them are very small, hidden movements almost, and just giving yourself that moment to settle in again. To remind yourself what it feels like to do that. Raise toes and heel. As we settle. So that familiar feeling of draining away that I mentioned earlier becomes a really important intention every time our weight settles in one foot. And then stepping in. Now have your right foot forwards. So combining that step in with the upper body movements, remembering the significance of the center of the body that we noticed in the chair. Start with your weight in your back foot. Turning your body towards the front foot, just slightly to the right. Move your weight forwards, settle into the front foot, turn to the left. Move your weight back, turn to the right, and then forwards, turn to the left. This time, as you sink back, turn to the right, let that swing your arms out, a little bit like the wild goose, going forwards, turning, swing your arms out, body expanding, and It's called Wind Blows the Willows. This time, as you go back and you turn to the right, as you feel your right hip going back, let that draw your toes up, bring your foot in, planting the foot forwards. And forwards as you turn to the left, that brings the knee in, raises your heel, brings the foot in. So the same movement turning in the center of your body that moves your arms, also moves your legs. It's called dragonfly skins. Maybe raising the leg if that feels comfortable. Good. Okay. Now have your left foot forwards. Same thing again. So first of all, to start with your weight in your back foot going forwards, turning slightly to your right, going back, setting the back foot, turning to your left. You may even feel the effect already down into your legs. The effect of the turning movement. Just how it affects your knee, your hip, the foot. The arms begin to swing out, your body expanding. Expanding and wind blows to the stepping in. Dragonfly skims the water. Raising the foot. If you find that that's sending you all over the place, then leave that for now. There's plenty of time to build that in. Remembering that the way that we achieve the stability is by allowing our hips to drop, allowing our center of gravity to drop. And then whether you're raising the foot or not, take a few steps through, forwards or backwards. Planting the foot. Take your time. And then stepping back, changing direction. One more time. And then bringing it. Go back to your chest. So again, taking a comfortable posture. Final exercise, which is called Embrace Tiger, Return to Mountain, and one I always like to finish with. And again, just really emphasizing this returning process of coming back to a point of being settled, of being still, of being calm, not to exclude the movement, but really as the starting and finishing point. So let your hands drop down, and then an expansion outwards, a bit like the wild goose, but then bringing your hands around as though you're going to hold a ball against your chest, letting your elbows drop, and bringing your hands down, turning into the ground. One more time. And thank you very much. So I hope that was useful to you. Do please get in touch with any comments or questions. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.